And tonight on our Great American Panel, he is an editor at dailycaller.com. Fox News contributor Tucker Carlson is here. She, a Fox News contributor, host of the nationally syndicated Leslie Marshall Show. Sam Marshall is with us. And he is a nationally syndicated columnist, executive vice president of Edelman PR. Tony Blankley is back. Guys, good to see you. Good to be here. All right. Well, we got all of this going on. Herman Cain's numbers up until today have pretty much held up, even after all this has gone on for now well over a week. How do you think he handled it today?
Well, he made a complete, all his chips in, complete denial, promised to take a lie detector test.
I didn't like that idea. But what is he supposed to say? If he says no, oh, he must be guilty. He can't win.
No, and it's very hard. Look, I mean, I've been fighting liberal media in Washington for 30 years, and I hate the unfairness of it. The reality is that I think that he's got a challenge ahead of him. I mean, they're going to keep coming back, and the question is, what does the average conservative primary Republican voter think? And if they get suspicious at some point, then he's in trouble. If they don't...
But you see, by casting doubt in their mind, you know, they're going to say, wow, we want to beat Obama so bad, we can't have the chance.
That's the danger.
That's right. Look, I love Herman Cain. I know Herman Cain. I think he's a great guy, and I mean that. I was at a Cain press conference last week where he couldn't answer a basic question about his own 999 program. A basic question, he could not answer it. He's completely mishandled this. I give him the benefit of every single doubt, but his team has done such a poor job of dealing with these allegations.
I would agree up
that
to
I
a
don't
point.
think he's showing readiness to be president. I just got to be totally honest with you, John. I hate to say that, but it's true.
You know,
that's it. He's
I'm sorry. I don't want to believe that. There's a lot of pressure not to say that, but this election is
Let me say this in his defense. Because he's running a different type of campaign because he's a different candidate. He's a business guy. But I'm not going to make excuses. When they had 10 days warning and they didn't prepare better for this, I think that was a mistake. Yes. And the second thing is I thought they got out of the box slow. I think they should have been much stronger. But with that said, he got his footing, I thought. He did an hour on the radio, answered every single question. I ran out of questions. I couldn't ask him anything else. Well, what'd you do with her, you know? And I'm going through it. Did anything. And he is so passionate in his defense that he did not do this.
Yeah, but Sean, at this stage of the game, remember, this is sexual harassment, and until we find out, you know, who did pay for that hotel room, and until we actually have evidence, it does come down to he said, and she, and she said.
Well, what if he got an upgrade as a, you know, the person said, well, you have 2 rooms here. Would you like an upgrade?
But he's saying she doesn't look familiar to him. He doesn't recognize her. There are conservatives at a Tea Party function.
No, but I believe the guy. Look, I believe everything he says. I like Herman Cain. He is still casting blame in every possible direction. That's not what conservatives do. Conservatives don't whine, and they don't blame people who don't deserve to be blamed. He's blamed. You can keep a list of the number of people he's blamed with zero evidence. He has a right to complain. He doesn't have a right to cast blame with no evidence.
Time about Bill Ayers.
Yes.
One time.
Look, I couldn't agree more. The press is stacked against him. It still doesn't mean that we should hold him to a lower standard. He could be president.
Right, Tony.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like John McLaughlin. Yeah.
That's a strange thought, you know. It's unfair, but the political reality is where it is, and I think that it's going to be pretty hard for him to sustain the confidence of the Republican voters. Now, if he can, he's home free. But this is going to keep going on day after day. He's opened the door with the lie detector.
We'll ask you when you get back, but does Newt's numbers have gone up? You work for Newt.
Yes.
Does this open the door for Newt Gingrich as...
I think the door was opening over the last month, and I think at this point he's about to be at least the next alternative to Romney. I think he's going to do very well in that
We'll talk more about this when we get back. We'll have more with our great American panel with... Do you like your new name?
Yeah, Sam.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the host of the Leslie Marshall Show. Sam,
well, you know, men get paid more, right? So I'll go with that.
Sam can be a woman's name too. Samantha, Sam.
You had to knock me down my pay rate.
And we'll continue straight ahead right after the break.
This program is brought to you by New Pro Nutrients, a new line of supplements from the makers of Centrum.
I take my multivitamin, but wanted to do something more for my nutrition. There's so much information out there. What's good for you today is bad for you tomorrow. I had no idea what to choose until...
All of your favorite...
Frame
works. That works.
We continue now with our Great American Panel. How long did you work for Newt? You worked for
7 years.
7 years.
1997.
Everybody, even Karl Rove said this the other day, that everybody recognizes he's come off very well in these debates. His poll numbers are coming up after every debate.
He's pretty much in third now.
What do you think? Is he now, after Palente, after Bachmann, after
I'll tell you what,
Perry?
I think that given the plight that this country's in and the desperate need to actually fix things, as the voters listen to Newt discuss every issue they care about at a level of insight and solution orientation, I think they're going to give him at least a good, solid second look because, and for conservatives, the idea of Newt debating the president is just a thrill. Mm-hmm. And so Newt's going to get his chance, and I think that over the next month we're going to see the media focus on him more, and I think he's going to perform remarkably well. You said the person as a liberal you fear the most is Romney. Why?
Yes. Yes, because he appeals to the independents, he appeals to the more centrists, he appeals to the moderates. And Mitt Romney, you know, I honestly don't, I think this guy doesn't really have an opinion. I think he appeals to whoever his audience is. And I think that's going to work in his favor. And I think it's going to be more difficult for the president to run up against.
I think conservatives have deep misgivings about Romney. Obviously, they're going through a whole slate of alternatives to Romney.
But he still stays at the top. He's never.
I don't think he's broken 30%, but he's remained in that
25% is his average.
Yeah, right. So, no, look, he's got a lot to recommend him. He's a serious guy. He's a good person.
Don't you think he's done better this time? Don't you think he's debated well?
Oh,
he's become much
done well.
better candidacy, and also he's had better judgment about how to talk to fellow Republicans. He hasn't been as aggressive. He's kept his fire.
But he's also hidden. He's been hidden away. I mean, you try to get an interview with Mitt Romney right now. It's very, very difficult. He doesn't want to talk. I think he's going to have to engage in the events of the day a little bit more. I do think a Newt-Obama race would be the single most exciting, interesting, informative, educational.
Who wins that debate?
Ever.
I mean,
who wins the race?
Newt
wins the debate for sure, and I think he could win the election.
I don't.
Do you think Newt is, because for whatever reason, I asked him about this when he was on last night, and he explained. I said, all right, you did allow it as speaker. The contract was great. We actually got to a balanced budget. He led a revolution that brought Republicans to power for the first time in 40 years. But it seems to be some lingering, you know, because it was a very contentious time.
It was a lot of fighting, but I've always resented the fact that people said, you know, Newt was good with ideas, but he couldn't manage. He managed brilliantly. We got welfare reform. It was Clinton was obviously one of the shrewdest politicians we've ever seen. They were contending with each other, and Newt got a tremendous amount through.
I agree.
Now, it was difficult, but I think he's a tremendous record to
run on.
Absolutely.
Do you think he's done a good enough job of selling that? And
he's talking about it more.
Do you think he's different? Because he seems like he's mellowed enough. He smiles a lot. He's got a charm.
He always did. He always did. But I think back in those days, he also, when he felt like it in public, he would get more forceful perhaps than he needed to. But he always in private and around, and a lot of reporters actually knew that he was funny and charming. So I think you're seeing the real Newt more now than.
Real quick, Les.
Well, I honestly agree with some of that. I think that he's being less Newt Gingrich, the Republican, the GOP umbrella, and he's saying what he really believes. I mean, he stood up and he said, listen, I mean, when the American people are saying don't touch Medicare, you got to listen to that.